Hey August, it's Monday, March 19th. I just finished getting the car cleaned up for you, getting it ready to be shipped out. I'm still waiting on a call from the shipping company. I'll let you know as soon as they call, but I wanted to go ahead and get it cleaned up and get it packed up so that way when they do call it's ready to go. I wanted to get a video here showing the condition that it's in before it gets shipped out, so that way you know it was in excellent condition before the shipping company picked it up. I've never dealt with having a car shipped, so hopefully everything goes well. It should. The company you're using looks like a reputable company, so it shouldn't be a problem, but just in case something happens, I want you to know that the, whatever damage you do find was not already there. Car is in great shape. There's virtually no scratches, very little, if any, scratches. Paint's in really good condition. Just give you a walk around here so you can see the condition of everything. Here's the engine, and here is your new cover for the positive battery terminal. Just picked that up today from the dealership. Took them like 2.5 weeks to get it here. I'll step inside here. I want to show you one thing about starting the vehicle. It does have an aftermarket fuel system, Lonnie's Performance fuel system. It's a dual fuel pump, so it takes longer to prime than the stock fuel pump does. So when you want to start the car, what you do is put the key in, turn it to on for about 3 seconds, and then start it. And it'll start every time. If you just get in and immediately try to start the car, which you'll probably do out of habit for the first few times, the car will it'll crank over, it'll turn over for a few seconds before it'll start. It's fine if it does that. Just don't let it turn over for too long. It's not good for the starter to turn over too long. But yeah, if you just get in the habit of putting the key in there and turning it to run for about 3 seconds and then starting it, you'll have no trouble at all. And you can see your gauges here. Let me get it started again. See the gauge is working properly. That's your boost and vacuum gauge. Here's your fuel gauge. Give it a second. The O2 sensor is heating up. It takes about 10 seconds to heat up. Once it heats up, you'll see that needle go right to where it should be. Alright, and as you're driving it, you'll see that air-fuel ratio fluctuate. The gauge has been working properly since I called the manufacturer and had it wired up the way it should be. So you should have no trouble with that. With the gauge, it's actually with the wideband O2 sensor. Down here, I've got it hanging out so you can see it. This is the calibration button for the wideband O2 sensor. Here's the calibration light. I've included the instruction manual for that, so you can read about that. But typically, if your air fuel gauge here is not reading properly, if it's showing some crazy numbers, or if it starts, the needle starts going all over the place, then it may need to be recalibrated. And it just involves pulling the O2 sensor out of the exhaust and pushing that button down there for a few seconds. So it really doesn't take more than about 10 minutes to do, and you shouldn't have to do it very often. I think it recommends doing it every 6 months to a year, but you can read the instruction manual just to be sure. But I have these pulled out just so you can see them, but you can tuck them back behind this plastic back here, so that way they're not visible. But I'll leave them out there so you can see them. And if you really wanted to, you could screw some holes in the plastic here and have the button and the light mounted, so that way they're visible all the time. But for me, I just prefer tucking them away when I'm not using them, and when I need them, I'll just pull them out. Alright. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to show you. Oh yeah, I will show you one thing about the, let me get the key back. Pop the trunk here. I've just pulled the plates off. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my plates in probably today or tomorrow, but I'll keep insurance on the vehicle until you receive it. So if something does happen, then hopefully you have insurance and the shipping company will have insurance, but I will still have my insurance. That's mainly just for my protection. So this light I was going to show you, it has a slight chip in the corner, barely noticeable unless you get right up to it, but I'll show you in a little bit. I've included an extra light. I was going to put it on, but I decided not to because this one is really not bad, but if this bothers you, you can always put the other one on. Alright, let me start again. My wife came out here and I lost my train of thought. Anyways, this light right here, as you can see, it's got a very slight chip in the corner of it. It's been glued back. It's not even noticeable unless you're looking for it. I've got a spare light that I've included. I was going to put it on and replace this one, but really this one's not, in my opinion, bad enough to replace. So I figured I'd just save the other one just in case something bad did happen to this one. But if this bothers you, you can just put the other one on. I've included that. I'll have it in the car for you. I'll go through some of those parts here in a minute, show you some of the parts that I'm including. Here's inside the trunk. I've got a spare belt. It's a good idea just to carry around a spare belt and a wrench, because you never know with a performance vehicle if your belt slips or breaks or something. It's good to have a spare. Never had any trouble with it, but I did buy a spare just to have, just in case. I think it was like maybe $10 for a spare belt, so it's nice insurance. This here is the alternator pulley. It's an 8-rib alternator pulley. Let me go here and show you what I'm talking about. All the belts, all the pulleys have been converted to an 8-rib system like this. The only one that has yet to be replaced is the alternator pulley down there. That is because apparently this alternator, you can't replace the pulley. The only way to put an 8-rib pulley on this alternator or on this car is to get an aftermarket alternator. I've spoken with multiple people about this, and there are a couple people that have successfully put an 8-rib pulley on these alternators, but I don't know how. So I've been told by my installer that it's not possible, and the only way to do it is to get a different alternator. So it does have a 6-rib belt on an 8-rib setup. It's no problem. There is no belt slip at all, so really upgrade into the 8-rib belt would do you no good. There'd be no performance gain. Now if you started making more extra horsepower, if you were making 100 extra horsepower, then you might have some belt slip, but we had no belt slip at all on the dyno, so it's not something that needs to be replaced. But I'll show you over here. Here's your 8-rib belt. So if you're able to get this 8-rib alternator pulley installed, or if you're able to find an aftermarket alternator that you can install this pulley on, then it'll be no problem just to go ahead and have that 8-rib belt installed. But for now, the 6-rib belt will be perfectly fine, and you do have a 6-rib belt, a spare one in the trunk that I just showed you. So just wanted to give you a heads up on as to why there is still a 6-rib belt on a 8-rib setup. So I'll stick this back in here. Down in here you've got your spare Camaro wheel and tire and jack kit. Here's your roadside assistance kit. And this is what I wanted to show you back here. Alright, as I said, this is Lonnie's dual fuel pump system. It's called Lonnie's double pumper. The way it's set up, one pump runs all the time. Then when you're making over 4 pounds of boost, over 4 psi of boost, that second pump will kick in. The second pump is tied into a hop switch, so that second pump's never going to turn on until you're making over 4 psi of boost. So here are your fuses for both pumps. This here is for the pump that's running full time. And this here is for the pump that's tied into the hop switch. What you want to do, typically every oil change, it's good to switch the pumps around, to switch which one is primary. Right now this one is primary. It has the clip in it right here. This one here is tied into the hop switch. As you can see, it's tied into this cable which runs to the hop switch. So what you want to do every 6 months or so is every oil change every 6 months. It's really just to help maximize the life out of the fuel pumps. If you're running one pump all the time and the other pump's not getting used, but on rare occasions, then that first pump is going to burn out a lot quicker than the second pump is. So it's a good idea to switch them around so that way you get the extended life out of both pumps. So what you want to do is pull this out of here and install it in this one. And then pull this clip off here and install this one. Just switch the two clips around. So I'll go ahead and switch it for you. It's hard with one hand. Pull that one out of there. Put it in here. If I had both my hands, it would be a lot easier. And actually, I'm going to set the camera down so I can do this real quick. Alright, so I just snapped it into this here. And then this one here gets the clip. So now I've just switched which pump is primary, which one's running to the hop switch. Now this one has the clip in it, so that one is going to be your primary pump. And this one here is running to the hop switch. And again, these are your fuses for the pumps. And you can always tuck that back behind the carpeting there. And all the wiring for the fuel system, it runs along the right side of the car here. There's some wire coiled up back behind here if you need extra wire. And then some of the wiring runs up to the front, down there into the passenger side kick panel. That's where your hop switch is. So if your hop switch ever goes bad, that's where it's at. To access your fuel pump, all you do, grab the bottom of the seat here and pull up. And then grab the bottom of this side over here. I'm going to switch sides. Grab the bottom of this seat here, get a nice tug. And then under there, see that silver Dynamat? Your fuel pump's under there. So you can just pull the seat completely off, pull that Dynamat off, and then you'll see the plate covering the fuel pump. It's a lot easier than dropping the rear out of the car. It's a lot easier to get to the fuel system from the top. So if your fuel pumps ever go bad, or you decide you want to switch back to the stock fuel setup, then it's really easy to do. All you do is just pull the back seat up, take the Dynamat off, take off the cover for the fuel pump, and then you can slip the fuel pump out of the top there. I just pop the seat back. All right. All right. Got your new tires on there. Just had those put on. As you can see, the car is in excellent condition. Alright, here's some of the parts that you're getting. These are the stock fenders. If you ever want to take off those HSV fenders, you could probably sell those, I'd say, for about $25. Alright, my camera just cut off on me. Inside this box here, you got an extra oil pressure gauge from Speed Hut. This is not being used. There's already oil pressure gauge in the car. Some of the wires for it in there. This is a sun visor, a spare sun visor. The mirror's falling out of it, so you may not need that. You may just end up trashing that. But there's your sway bar. The hardware for the sway bar it'll be inside one of these boxes. This is the hardware to install the sway bar. Here's the stock air box. Inside you've got some of the stock bulbs. Some of the LED bulbs in there. This here is your stock differential. The car has a Camaro 327 differential in it now, so that's the stock one. In that box there are your stock axles. There's your stock front brakes. There's the spare tail light that I was telling you about. It's brand new, so you can either keep it in case something happens to your other one, or you can go ahead and install it and get rid of the one that's on there now. Here's your next oil change. Car cover that you mentioned in the black bag. Stock speakers in those boxes. There's the Holden headlight covers. I've taped the clips onto this one here so that way you don't lose them. They're real easy to clip on the headlights. And here's some of the stock pulleys, stock belt, and stock brake lines. In the bubble wrap here is your that is the stock trim pieces from the gauge install, from the Holden HSV gauge install. So if you ever want to put the car back to stock, get rid of the gauges, then you can. There's all your stock trim. Here's a spare seat trim. The clip on it's slightly broken, but if the one that's in there now ever breaks, this one could probably be repaired. So you could probably just super glue it back or hold it with a zip tie instead of having to pay for a new one. Here's a window visor. Stock door sill plates. That's the stock Magna Charger intake tube. And out here I don't have the paperwork and some of the other stuff I'm going to be giving you, some of the instructions, so I'll include that along with this stuff. But I'll go ahead and get this stuff put in the car and have it ready for you, have it ready to be picked up. I hope you enjoy it. It's been a great car. I hate getting rid of it, but you gotta grow up sometime. So there's one last look at it before it gets picked up, and I'll try to shoot a video when it's getting picked up by the trucking company so you can see it being loaded. But that's it for now. Hey August, I just remembered something I was going to tell you about the fuel system. You know, I said it was tied into a Hobbs switch. If you ever want to run both pumps full time, for instance, you're going to be going to the drag strip and you know that There's no reason for you to be running just on one pump at any time. You can have it running on both pumps all the time. Inside the glove box here is a little clip. This here, you would just take it back here and plug it into here, where that line is going to the hop switch. Just disconnect that line and plug this in its place. Then you'd have these clips here going to both fuel pumps, and that would have both pumps running full time. And if you wanted to switch back, so that way you're running just on one pump and you have the other pump going on the hop switch, then you would just disconnect this and then plug that line back in to one of your pumps. But that's it. And as you can see, I've already started getting some of your stuff loaded up.